It's exciting to see many of you here today as we welcome Indiana's Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, back to Ellettsville. We are glad to have you here again. Your visit in 2019 was a highlight for our members, and they asked us to bring you back and thank you for joining us today. I am Donna Neese, president of the Ellettsville Chamber of Commerce this year, and I am the agent and owner of the Neese Agency State Farm here in Ellettsville. As the voice of business in our community, the Chamber is pleased to provide opportunities such as today's luncheon to connect business and community leaders with decision makers at the state level. Today's event is a great way for us to do this and to showcase our wonderful town hall and our community. An event of this kind is only possible through the generous support of our sponsors, and I'd like to recognize those organizations that helped to make today possible. If you could please hold your applause till the end. Our presenting sponsors are Hoosier Hills Credit Union and Smithville. In a few moments, I'll welcome Hoosier Hills Credit Union President and CEO Travis Markley and Smithville Executive Vice President Cullen McCarty to the podium. Our sponsors at the gold level today are Mike Kornman, Ellettsville Fire Chief, who is retired now, Cook Medical, Ivy Tech Community College, and State Representative Bob Heaton for District 46. We would also like to recognize our sponsors at the silver level for today's event, Community Foundation, Bloomington and Monroe County, and Owen County State Bank. Let's give all these businesses and organizations a big round of applause. I would also like to show appreciation to the Chamber Board of Directors, our ambassadors, and our executive administrator, as well as the Chamber's premium and executive partners. The names of those individuals and businesses are listed on the back page of the program that you have today. Additionally, I'd like to thank and welcome all of those in attendance who are representing an Ellettsville Chamber of Commerce member. We exist to serve our members and support all of our members. And the support of all our members is greatly appreciated. And now it is my pleasure to welcome Travis Markley, President, CEO of Hoosier Hills Credit Union, and Cullen McCarty, Executive Vice President of Smithville, to give a brief summary of their organizations.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate it. In the interest of time, I'll shorten my speech here just a little bit so that we can get to the speaker that you all came to see. I just want to say that Hoosier Hills Credit Union is extremely proud to be a part of this event and certainly honored to be a part of any event with our very own Lieutenant Governor Crouch. Thank you very much. You know, it's amazing to me as we've entered the Ellettsville and Monroe County community to see the synergies and the collaboration within the community. And really, regardless of kind of competitive landscape or what industry you're in, it's very apparent that we're all here to be a force for good in our communities, and that we all are kind of woven in this common fabric, really to leave the place better for the generations that come after us. And so we certainly appreciate the fact that you've embraced us into the community, and we're proud to be a part of it. And thank you for having us. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Cullen McCarty from Smithville. Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Yeah, appreciate it. Build your legacy in Indiana. We've been doing that for 100 years. This year marks our centennial of Smithville Communications, and we started out in 1922 connecting limestone quarries in not quite Steinsville, Smithville, Ellettsville, and Clear Creek. We have been a part of growing business and growing communities since that time. And you look at the challenges that were there in 1922 in terms of connectivity, even by highway. We didn't have much of a highway at that time. We had the Monon come in, and that was pretty much it for Ellettsville. So they needed connectivity to get out to the rest of the world for the limestone industry. And with that connection, with the railroad as well, you were able to see some of the great buildings still standing from that era. in the early 1920s through 1930s, culminating with the Empire State Building, of course, in New York. Bringing this community to the world has been what my family's been doing all those years. And since we took majority control of the company in 1930, we remain 5 generations later committed to that and all that we do, connecting businesses large and small here in Indiana, and connecting homes, apartments, trailer park or mobile home communities, and every community that we serve as a phone company, we serve eventually with fiber broadband. Our partnership with SEI REMC continues. North of here, we've got a lot of construction going on, and we're staying in front of that supply chain as best we can. It's going to be a challenge, but we're making it work so far. So thanks to our friends at SEI for that collaboration. So I will transition this to our next speaker, who will introduce the Lieutenant Governor by saying that for 100 years, Smithville has been going from helping connect the builders of American history to connecting the builders of America's future. And that's exactly what Jeff Baldwin is doing in building America's future through the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington. It is my privilege to introduce my good friend Jeff Baldwin.
Thank you for that. Bingo. Excellent. Thank you. Yes, Jeff Baldwin, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Bloomington. Honored to be here. Really appreciate the opportunity to introduce the Lieutenant Governor. And thank you, Cullen. Thank you, Travis. Thank you to both of your companies for sponsoring today. I think we all agree that one of the key elements of a thriving community are not only our businesses, but the way the businesses support the community at large, right? And when I look across this room, there are numerous people that are supporting the Boys and Girls Club at a variety of different ways. And it is the community's club. That Boys and Girls Club, that Ellettsville Boys and Girls Club does not exist without you. Period. There's no shot at the governor. There's no government money that just flows into the organization to sustain it, right? There has to be a groundswell of support. There is support from the government, right? From the, our Indiana Kids Tutoring Program is a key part of how we get things done. But it is the community that makes it go. And so I'm delighted to be able to thank you for that and keep keep doing what you're doing to make it all go. For $20 a year, a child becomes a member of the Boys and Girls Club. $20 a year, not a week, not a month, right? $20 a year to have access to our out-of-school programming. It's not just after school. Right now, the clubs are full, right? And when you add up all that time, it's the equivalent of 144 school days worth of programming, right? It's significant that we have that kind of access to kids to give them what they need. And I brought something along today as a way to try to illustrate the impact of the club. I know a lot of you have probably seen this at one time or another. Gather that in before I talk about it. So I'm a person who likes to have participation. Anybody willing to take a shot at what was the intent of this when somebody shot it out there? Anybody willing to take a risk?
It's doable for everybody.
Oh, I love it. That's exactly right. My goodness, everybody should be able to do this stuff, right? The reality reality is very simple. Certainly, there are people who have talent, right? And God-given talent is one of those things that we're not all blessed with necessarily, right? I'm not going to be a sculptor. I'm not a professional athlete, right? And I could go on and on and on of these things that I was born with. And yes, you can enhance talent with training, etc., right? This is not something that everybody has access to right here, right? You can complain all you want about somebody's work ethic, but the only way they gained work ethic is through their life experiences. It is a learned behavior, right? And to vilify or point fingers at those or judge those who are not doing what it is that they should be doing, any and all of these things that are on here, is criminal. You have to be able to learn this stuff, right? And for so many kids in our community who don't have this at home and don't have this in other arenas, whether it's special programs that they're involved in, etc., the club fills an important void. These have to be learned. And not just with one class or one moment, day after day after day after day. And your support of the club, even the chamber, great supporter of the club, for goodness sakes, your support allows us to serve hundreds of kids in this community, to give them that, what I refer to as the magic soup, that they've got to have so that they become you and I. Because at the end of the day, if we don't replace ourselves, the future is bleak, right? And so thank you for continuing to support the club, and so many of you in here embrace that fact that it is the community's club. And I am forever grateful. Thank you. And so it is my absolute delight to welcome Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch to our community to visit with us and share information about state initiatives. Born and raised in Evansville, Lieutenant Governor previously has served as Indiana's state auditor, state representative, and held public office in Vanderburgh County as auditor and county commissioner. In her current role, Lieutenant Governor Crouch oversees a portfolio that includes the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, Office of Community and Rural Affairs, and Indiana Destination Development Corporation. Additionally, she chairs the Lieutenant Governor's Roundtable on Mental Health, the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Task Force, and the Civics Education Commission. It's exhausting. Other initiatives she and her office oversee includes the Next Level Connections Broadband Grant Program, the Golden Hoosier Award, Hoosier Women Artists, and Brilliant Firefly. We understand how these responsibilities keep her very busy, and it is a real honor that she has taken time from her busy schedule to be with us today. Thank you so very much. Please help me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch to Ellettsville.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. We can do better than that. Good afternoon. All right. I love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for the honor of being here. Thank you for the honor of serving as your Lieutenant Governor. I can't believe it's been since 2019 that we've gotten together like this. I just find it hard to believe. But let me share a couple things that have happened to me or things that I think you might be interested in. One thing that you may not know is that I kept my maiden name when we got married 44 years ago. So obviously I'm Suzanne Crouch, right? And my husband is Larry Downs. Now I thought about hyphenating my name, but Suzanne Crouch Downs? We did celebrate our 44th wedding anniversary on April Fool's Day, and we talked about how our roles have changed. Because my husband's a little older, he's in Evansville, stays in Evansville, which is where our home is. And he does all the cleaning, he does all the laundry, he does his own cooking. He will actually take care of the entire house. I'll do all the errands. And I'm up in Indianapolis working during the week, and then I go home on the weekends. And I told him, I said, you know, honey, after 44 years of marriage, it's wonderful to finally have a wife at home. Well, he has a very dry sense of humor. I said that, he looked at me and he said, I know, I never had one. So, the moral of that story is if you're going to stay married any length of time, you better have a sense of humor and then know your lane and stay in it. But it's wonderful to be with you all. And, it was shared, my many offices that I've held, starting as a county auditor and county commissioner down in Evansville, and then, of course, a state representative, auditor of state, and now lieutenant governor. And, over that period of time, I always tried to pattern my public service after how I imagine Abraham Lincoln served. Because Lincoln said that government should do for people only what they cannot do better for themselves, and no more. And so we must fight the problems of too much and inefficient government. We must deliver services efficiently and cost effectively to those that need them. But we should always measure our progress not by the amount of assistance we give people, but by the number of people we get off of assistance and back on their own 2 feet. And that's what we work on every single day here in Indiana. When I was in local office down in Vanderburgh County from 1995 to 2005, the state was not in very good financial condition. I don't know how many of you remember that, but we had structurally deficit budgets, meaning we were paying out more than what we were taking in. And it got so bad that the state delayed payments to schools, universities, and local governments because they didn't have enough money to pay their bills and make those payments on time. And that is why I ran for state office, was to try to make a difference and to try to turn things around. And over the past 17 years, we have tightened our belts, we have cut taxes, we balance budgets, and we have healthy surpluses. In fact, every taxpayer will receive a taxpayer refund this year. And the governor is proposing that the $1 billion extra revenue that we're going to have above and beyond our projections go back to the taxpayers again in another taxpayer refund. So as a result of all those efforts, Indiana is now #1 in the Midwest. We're 6th in the nation for our business environment. We have the 2nd most affordable state, the 3rd best infrastructure in the country, and we're one of 13 states with a AAA credit bond rating by all 3 independent rating agencies. Incredible accomplishments. But they can't be credited to government alone. Government may light a path, but it is you, the hardworking men and women, who are taking the risks and making the sacrifices that have put our state on a path to prosperity. It is the private sector that drives progress. Government can be a catalyst, and government can be a partner, but you all are the ones that are moving Indiana forward, and for that, we are incredibly grateful. It was mentioned in the introduction some of my duties and responsibilities, and as Lieutenant Governor, I probably have more duties and responsibilities than any other Lieutenant Governor in the country. Because in most states, the Lieutenant Governor acts if the governor's incapacitated, and that's their sole duty. In Indiana, I am President of the Senate, so when the Senate goes into session, I stand at a podium like this and I run the Senate. And I can only share with you, as a former state representative for 8 years, it's just wonderful to finally be in charge of the senators. But I head up 4 agencies, as was mentioned. I'm Secretary of Agriculture and Rural Development. And it's interesting, when I talk to chambers and rotaries, and I talk about big business, they don't automatically think about agriculture. But agriculture is big business in Indiana. It contributes over $31 billion to our state's economy. We are the 10th largest farming state. 83% of Indiana's geography, think about that, 83% of our geography is farmland, woodland, or forest. Agriculture is huge in Indiana. In fact, when I was on an ag trade mission down in Mexico, would have been back in 2019, and we went to a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant of all places, a Chinese restaurant in Mexico City, and we ate duck from Indiana because Indiana is the #1 duck producer in North America. We're the #1 producer of popcorn in the world. So it's a big farming state. But I also head up okra, the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, and we distribute grant money to our small rural communities throughout Indiana. The Housing and Community Development Authority, which promotes and supports affordable and workforce housing here in Indiana. And then, of course, the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, which I want to close my remarks with that agency. But let me, before I do that, share with you some of the initiatives that I head up that are very important to me. It was mentioned that I head up our broadband, Next Level Broadband Connections initiative. Back in 2018, Purdue University did a study. And they said at that time we had a little over 400,000 Hoosiers that were in internet darkness. And if we could connect all those Hoosiers, over the next 20 years, we would be able to have an additional $12 billion to our state's economy. So in 2019, we invested $100 million to be able to unlock that economic opportunity. Well, in 2020, COVID hit, and now being connected wasn't a luxury. It was critical as students were e-learning and workers were teleworking and healthcare was being delivered telehealth. And so in the 2021 session, the General Assembly introduced 18 bills to expand broadband and appropriated an additional $250 million. We have two broadband programs, our Next Level Connections programs, which broadband providers like Smithville will apply for grant money, identifying a geographic area that they want to provide service in. And then we will provide the money, and it allows them to go in and make those connections. And to date, we have been able to connect, or when everything is done through that Next Level Connections program, in the money that's been awarded, we will be able to connect an additional 25,000 Hoosiers in 83 counties. In the 2021 session, they created the Indiana Connectivity Program. That empowers Hoosiers to either call our toll-free number or go to our website and say, I don't have connection, or I don't have adequate speed. And then what we do is we bundle those addresses, and then we go to providers to have them provide service, and we provide grant money to help that make that happen. We just did our first round of those, announcing that there will be 253 Hoosiers that we will be able to connect through that program. I also chair the Intellectual and Developmental Disability Task Force. We have 100,000 Hoosiers in Indiana that have autism, Down syndrome, or cerebral palsy. And we work through that task force to ensure that they can live, play, work, and stay in safe, accessible, affordable environments. Because our friends with disabilities are really just friends with different abilities. And they have the same hopes and dreams and desires as each and every one of us. They want to have a job and have friends and love and be loved and be successful in life. And so through that task force, we work to ensure that they can fulfill the dreams they dream and build the lives they want to build. But what I want to close with on my initiatives is after the 2020, our re-election in 2020, Governor Holcomb and I sat down and talked about what we wanted to focus on over the next 4 years above and beyond our normal duties and responsibilities. And I told him for me it was mental health, because the human cost of this pandemic is huge, and it's going to exponentially grow for years to come. Not just the cost to our families, but the cost to our budgets, whether we're in the public or the private sector. I travel the state. I've been to all 92 counties many times over. And when I talk to superintendents, counselors, Boy Scout, Girl Scout leaders, anyone that deals with young people, they will share that the amount of panic, anxiety, depression, suicide ideation, acting on suicide, and self-harm is greater than they've ever seen among our young people. Suicide is the 12th leading cause of death among Americans. It's the 3rd leading cause of death among young Americans. Before COVID, 1 out of 5 Hoosiers struggled with mental illness or addiction, and we all know Hoosiers that face those challenges, and sometimes our own family members. And my family's no exception. My mother suffered from depression, my sister committed suicide, and my brother's an alcoholic. Those Hoosiers who inherit genes that predispose them to these conditions, or those Hoosiers who find themselves in situations that lend themselves to these conditions, deserve an opportunity to be successful, and we owe that to them. I said bad things came from COVID. Some good things came from COVID. One of the bad things that came from COVID is we all face mental health challenges. Fear, anxiety, isolation, depression. The good thing is we all face that. And so today there is that awareness and sense of urgency to do something about this epidemic in and among itself. So that is what my focus is on and will continue to be on for the duration of my term as Lieutenant Governor. But what I really want to close with, and I want to really be respectful of your time, is the Indiana Destination Development Corporation. It used to be our state tourism agency, and the General Assembly in 2019 created the Indiana Destination Development Corporation so that we could not only welcome visitors to our state, but we could focus on how do we attract talent and then keep our young people here. You know, Indiana's an incredible state. We have assets and destinations that are unbelievable right here in Ellettsville and in Monroe County. But one of the things I always say about Hoosiers, we are humble. We work hard, we put our nose to the grindstone, we do what's right, and we don't pat ourselves on the back for doing that. But as a result, we don't do a very good job about telling our story and telling about Indiana and the great things that we have. And so our Indiana Destination Development Corporation has been charged with that. And over the past year, they have been working on a campaign to be able to sell Indiana, not only to people outside, but to Hoosiers within our state. And what they have come up with is what we call an identifier campaign. So it's not a branding campaign, it's not a marketing campaign, it's not a Wonder Indiana campaign or an Honest to Goodness Indiana campaign. We wanted something that was simple and was powerful and would allow all Hoosiers to be able to tell the story of Indiana. So they created an identifier campaign. Indiana is one of 5 states, I believe it's 5 states, where our initials are a word, right? N, I-N, N. So they came up with in Indiana. So pretty simple, right? But everyone in this room can use it. So whatever your business is, whatever your nonprofit, even as an individual, you can tell what it is about Indiana, what's in Indiana that makes it special for you. So we have behind us, there's more to discover in Indiana. Start your engines in Indiana. Create your legacy in Indiana. Best donuts in Indiana. I mean, you can take it and have it say whatever you want to say, and we need your help to be able to tell the story of Indiana, because we received a $5.6 million grant from the federal government to help us create this campaign and start marketing it around Indiana. We have free toolkits. If you go to visitindiana.com, you can download a toolkit that is tailored either for businesses, for schools, for nonprofit, for whatever, and then you yourself can use it to tell the story. If you've got a company, put in Indiana, tag it on to your company. You know, if you are the Boys and Girls Club, tag it on to the Boys and Girls Club. Smithville, tag it on. Because we want and we need your help to spread the message about how great Indiana is. I said 5.6 million. Michigan spends 26 to 40 million on their tourism. So if we're going to compete and get people here and grow our population, we need your help. So I'm not going to make you pinky swear with me that you're all going to go to the website, but I hope that some of you do and you download and help us tell the story of Indiana. So going along with this, we do have a video that is playing now. It'll play not only here in Indiana, but in markets in Louisville, St. Louis, and Chicago. So with that, I think if we're ready, maybe we could dim the lights. And, oh, we're going to look at your screens.
Here, get lost and take a hike. Our weekend plans and welcome mats are a genuine invitation. In Indiana, our downtowns and our small towns have the same amount of heart, and the moments that mean the most to you just happen. There's more to discover in Indiana. Get in at visitindiana.com. In Indiana, big thrills are a state tradition. Here, get lost and take a hike. Our weekend plans and welcome mats are a genuine invitation. In Indiana, our downtowns and our small towns have the same amount of heart, and the moments that mean the most to you just happen. There's more to discover in Indiana. Get in at visitindiana.com.
Pretty simple, right? But I think pretty powerful. And we need each and every one of your help to be able to help us tell the story of Indiana. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. It's been a delight again to be here in person with you all. And I just want to thank you for the honor of serving as your Lieutenant Governor. And thank you for what you're doing in here, because Indiana is only as successful as our individual communities throughout our state. So thank you for making us the success we are. And with that, God bless you.
Thank you again for your remarks and for being here with us today. Thank you also to each and every one of you for being part of today's event with us. We look forward to seeing you at Hoosier Hills Credit Union Business After Hours on June 30th, our picnic in the park, on July 15th, and we have some great speakers lined up for our remaining power luncheons. I also wanted to visit everyone who hasn't done so already, or even if you have, because I guess there's new information going to be posted or being posted on the Envision Ellettsville Facebook page with links for you to be able to check out what all is going on with that. So I don't want anyone to lose sight of our Envision Ellettsville project. You can learn more about all these events and chamber member activities in our newsletter and on our website. And finally, please everyone recycle your name badges on the way out by putting them on the registration table. And thanks again for being here. This concludes our formal program, but Lieutenant Governor Crouch has agreed to take some additional time for conversation and photos afterwards. So anyone wanting to remain and do that is more than welcome to. And I also want to give a shout out to the Shrine Club for the wonderful food, their 1870 catering. They do that as a fundraiser. So I would like to thank them for that as well. Thanks everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the day.